Aurene, I'm so sorry. I raised you from being an ugly baby.
This is some great stuff.
Should have been me. Aurene?
Huh. Hi.
How are you here? You died.
Oh, I'm fine now. Highs and lows. That's what we're going to talk about today with Living World Season 4. Something that the community has told me is the best of the Living World series, and unfortunately, the final entry in the Living World series as much as we know it. We have the Icebrood Saga and End of Dragons to go, so this is it for this idea of the living, breathing world in terms of how ArenaNet wants Guild Wars 2 to play out. Now, a little pre-warning here. I'm going to have to talk a lot in this one about story and characters, far more than I have done in the past, because I do respect that there are a lot of people on this journey with me, and they don't want to be spoiled. They want to know whether the story's good, whether it's bad, whether there's some things they should watch out for. But the thing with Living World Season 4 is it's absolutely delightful in certain places and a catastrophe in others. So we'll get to that shortly. Let's start off with like some of the basics of how ArenaNet has progressed up until this point as we start moving in towards current day, which is near enough where we are with Project MMO. So the world itself just continues to impress every single time. One of the main features that sells me on Guild Wars 2 and that is distinctive from Destiny, World of Warcraft, and Final Fantasy XIV is that they went with a horizontal progression system. And by that, you reach level cap in the base game, and then every single piece of content that has ever come out since that point, which is a lot, is all at the same level. You can access it straight away. You can just jump into it and go for it. There's no like, oh, new expansion, 10 more levels. New expansion, 10 more levels. There are other systems that you can level up in terms of your character growth, but you can jump into each of the expansions whenever you want. And what that means is that the gear that's available from an expansion that came out 6 years ago is comparable with gear that you can get now. It's all about tailoring your character to what you want it to do. And in fact, progressing other systems that aren't tied to power. I want to swing my sword more powerfully. It doesn't matter. That's not what the game's about. That means that all the zones remain relevant. And obviously, sometimes when I'm streaming to a relatively large audience, is that when I'm about to do something like the meta events in Guild Wars 2, a lot of people tend to show up. And I love that. It's great. I want to play with people all the time, and it makes it more spectacular. It makes it more fun. But it can come across as a disingenuous experience compared to what the average player can come up with. And that's something I always bear in mind when talking about these events. However, what's great, and I've pointed this out in other videos, and it happened again here, is every now and again, when I'm just roaming around, I just see swathes of like 100+ people doing stuff, and it's nothing to do with me at all in any way. This is what I also love about Guild Wars 2, by the way. This is not because I'm streaming. These are guys just doing shit. And the way they do this is they have a system where they make sure as best as possible there's always plenty of people in every zone you're in, even in the base game. It's just people playing the game. And it's amazing. It happened here. I just happened to be walking through the desert on my way to do my thing. And suddenly I see this huge swarm of people. I'm like, what is going on? And in Guild Wars 2, there's always something going on. And because of their very, very great and almost revolutionary commander system, you can join in. You can absolutely just join in. Oh, there's a thing happening. Right click, join. I'm in. I'm involved. I'm doing it. I end up taking up a giant world boss. Destroy the Death Brand Shatterer. Oh, fuck me. Okay. Now I know why we're here. And as many people have pointed out to me, I've probably missed a ton of world bosses because you have to be at a certain place at a certain time. And so we're going to go back and I'm going to go through a whole host of doing all the world bosses I can, especially now I'm more experienced with the game. The last time we really looked at a world boss was like the very first video in the base game where I didn't know what the hell was going on. And now we're a bit more advanced as we've been doing all the raids and stuff. So I want to go and do that. On top of that, though, the zone designs themselves better every single time. The inclusion of mounts since Path of Fire has really released the shackles on the creative decisions that was going on in the team. That is so clear to see every time I go into the next piece of content that's been released that they've been able to develop and work on. And now they're in the idea where they can introduce many different biomes into the same zone. Like previously, each zone was very, very strictly themed around what that zone could be. And you're not really going to change that aesthetic, change that dynamic until you move to the next zone. In Living World Season 4, they were like, why? Yeah, I get it. This is Fire Island. It should be fiery. Maybe we could do something with verticality, so it's a bit, you know, it's more lush up, a bit less, but it's still the same theme. In this one, it's like you can move between frost, you can move between jungles, all within the same zone, and get that constantly engaging visual experience. Because if you don't like a zone, if you theme one zone, and the Tangled Depths would be a great example of this, if you don't enjoy that zone, tough shit, the whole zone's like that. That's just the way it's going to be. And that's not particularly fun. If that zone merges and grows and adapts to around what you're doing, it has that dynamic aspect to it, that makes it so much more enjoyable. And Living World Season 4 is where they've started doing that stuff, and that's really good. So all that gameplay stuff, collecting the mounts, I've now got the roller beetle, that was super cool. I am going to work on the sky scale. I want to get that done before the new expansion comes, because they're going to just fast forward you because you need it. But I want to talk about the story and gameplay, because as I said at the beginning, highs and lows are the phrase of the day. And I want to preface this. I had possibly the most exciting, wonderful, pure gameplay experience that I've had for a really long time during Living World Season 4. I also had the most question mark, head-scratching, but why responses to so many things. So I'm going to choose a few examples here, and of course it will be somewhat spoilery for some people, but for those of you who have played Guild Wars 2 and are interested in our opinion on it, I think it's important. Let's start with Joko. What a bait and switch. Joko in Path of Fire is comical, and I referenced that I thought Joko was kind of built up as this big bad, and then you meet him and he's kind of comical and silly, that he was kind of based off Murray from the Curse of Monkey Island series. Very, very similar characteristics, similar way of talking, similar cadence, all those things. I thought he's a bit of a goofy character. Now, it seems that ArenaNet either planned to make you think that way, which they may have done, or they flipped the switch, which we've seen them do on a number of characters in the past. And in Living World Season 4, we see the true villain that is Joko, that lives up to the name of this character Joko that dominates the deserts. He is the ultimate. Everyone's afraid of him. It's really bad. And he's not just somebody like we found in the university who takes credit for everyone else's actions. He's a legitimately pure evil creature. And it's great. His depravity, his real depravity, is on show plenty of times in Living World Season 4. And it really, really shows. There's a horrible scene where he's convinced the husband to do horrible things against his village on the premise that he will resurrect his dead wife. And Joko's like, yeah, I'll resurrect your wife just to kill her again in front of you. Or I'll resurrect her hand or her leg and have her crawl across the floor with her fingertips towards you. Like absolutely depraved, horrible things.
My life is meaningless.
Oh, gross.
Oh, my dear little cabbage.
This is awful.
Life was always meaningless. Actually, maybe I will awaken your wife and then kill her again so you can watch. Maybe I'll slice off little bits of you and awaken those. It's literally so easy for me. Let me run something by you. What if I gave you more mouths, you know, to scream with?
Yo, Joko used to be kind of a comedian, but now he's kind of badass.
Loyalist wives.
And I think, honestly, Joko in Living World Season 4 represents my idea of this grotesque, everlasting creature who essentially just can't die. That fear of death has been washed away and has been around for millennia. I can't remember the exact date Joko's been around, but for a very, very long time, and just cannot die. And frankly, he couldn't give a fuck about you because you're all his toys. You are going to be born, live, and die, and Joko will be here all the way through that, and all the way through your children and their children's children. He will be around, and he couldn't give two fucks about you, and everything he does is for his fun. He'll make people build giant statues of him that talk when you walk past, and build universities where they do all these things. And then he's going to make you eat your own face. Because frankly, he's bored. He's been around for ages, and you mean nothing, and you can do nothing about it, because even if you try to kill him, he's just going to come back. And that's what they really displayed for me in Living World Season 4, and I thought that was fantastic. I thought it was so good to bolster that character up and actually live up to the memery that I've seen so many places of praise Joko and all this kind of stuff. And I thought it was a big joke on me. And Living Worlds Season 4 really, really showed off that kind of character and built him up very well. It's a sad point where he does die. As far as I know, he does die.
From you.
Joko's the good guy? Are we the baddies?
Once you're gone, everyone will flock to my embrace. They will all love me. Palawa, Ignacious, Joko.
And I was kind of sad. I was like, this is a really interesting villain who could go on to do all sorts of weird stuff. But then my thought process went at this point to, wow, Guild Wars 2 stories just got better and better and better. Like, it's been a common theme in every single one of these videos that I've made on Guild Wars 2. It's like the story's terrible in the beginning and it gets better and better and better. And then I feel like either the writers decided that either they got lazy or they wanted to give some fan appreciation and give the fans something to laugh at or to snigger at or whatever it might be, even at the cost of the context of the story. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this situation. Like, first of all, we've seen blunders before. They've happened. Path of Fire, we talked about Ritlock and Balthazar, and it was like, But that bump was like annoying and silly and made me think less of Ritlock. But ultimately, it's like, okay, there are always... who's going to get a perfect game story, right? I'm currently playing through Final Fantasy 16. There are missteps in the story. It's a fantastic, phenomenal story, but there are missteps in it. It happens. But let me break this down for you. Gorik, relatively new character to the series, enters a facility, and the facility attendants say, hey, we're going to detain you because there's a plague running rampant and you might be infected with the plague. Now, on the back of that, they say, we can't test you for the plague in case we get the plague. So we're going to detain you because you might have the plague. But we can't check if you have the plague because going near you might give us the plague. So we're just going to let you walk free. That is horribly written. We can't check to be whether he's carrying a contagion, so let him go and walk around the people? ArenaNet, that's awful. Awful writing. Absolutely awful. Now, that feels like it's written so stupidly because it's supposed to be a joke. But it's not. It just makes you go, what? And it makes the writing look incompetent. It looks bizarre. It looks so strange. But that's like a blunder. That's like, it feels like a story blunder or just a bit of fun that they threw in. Okay, it's not a big deal. Gorik's not a major character. It's whatever. But then we get to a moment where Brahm, the completely horrific Brahm, that again is his idiocy and poor timing and just general irritating presence is turned up to 11 in Living World Season 4, which I believe again is like fanfare. Like, let's laugh at Brahm because nobody likes him. But then it's taken to an extreme. Air's ghost returns. Now, I really hope that ArenaNet is not going down the road that we've seen so many other games where they can't live with their consequences of their actions. And so nobody's ever really dead. And so, yeah, Air died a very, very long time ago. But Air keeps coming back in one form or another, and now we get to see Air's ghost. Not only that, Air's ghost returns in the presence of her son, Brahm. And they have an exchange. Of course they do. He's her son. And I don't like Brahm, but he's her son, and that's his mother, and they didn't connect very well, and when she died, they weren't exactly at the best of places as mother and son after reconnecting after so long. So Brahm's basically begging her, can we talk? Let's talk. And she just says no. Get over it, is essentially what she says. There's no time for that kind of stuff. I haven't got anything to tell you. I haven't got a message to pass on to you. Get over it. Get on with your life. It's essentially... I mean, I laughed audibly at first. I did. I laughed audibly. It's like, that is so funny because Brahm. And then I thought, but this is also, like, ridiculous at the same time. Especially because the next line out of Air's ghost mouth is, Commander, me, I have a very important message to talk to you about.
This stalker on our tail.
Mother?
The Rift Stalker, Bram! We have to take it down.
No fucking way! Oh, wait till she finds out how much of a dick you've become.
Can we talk?
Bram, we don't have a lot of time. Talking was never
No,
our strong
Bram.
suit anyway. What's done is done. I wasn't what you needed.
Is it really too late for us?
Yes.
Yes, Bram, it's too late. I'm dead. And anyway, I could never have been the family you needed. Live your life.
Mr. Snap? Sir?
Incredible.
Can I pick your brain about
Absolutely incredible.
concave versus con...
Now, I get it. There's an urgency going on, but the mother and son, and she wanted that connection. The last time we saw Air when she was alive and Bram was around, she wanted that connection. And now she comes back as a ghost and tells him to get the fuck over it and move on. And I feel that's written to make the fans go, ha, 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 despite the fact it's fucking terrible. So that was annoying. But it's not the most annoying part. I talked about delight. So I talked about some negative things. But the gameplay leading up to the end of Living World Season 4 is the absolute best I've seen. And I don't mean in Guild Wars 2. It rivals, and I really had to rack my brain on this, as a single player piece of content in an MMO. The battle with Kralkatorrik is on par, and if not better, than the fort battle in Lost Ark. It's really, really hard to create a single player experience that invests you, is epic and grand. Often in MMOs, they're talking about armies walking over and you see a group of like 30 people, or enemies that are all just fighting NPCs, and you can clearly see it's not an army. You've got to use your imagination a little bit because the servers will lag. But this battle is right up there with what Lost Ark achieved with its fort defense. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. From everything from leaping across Kralkatorrik with these skewers sticking through him, to battling him down on the floor, to dealing with the onslaughting army, to the plan that takes up, to the fact that they then threw in the mount system, so you need to be jackling and blinking around the room and running through tunnels and all that kind of stuff. And then it culminates in a sequence that could fit so perfectly well inside any great single-player game by having Aurene skewered through every single body part, and the commander crawling and creeping, and you can't move her any faster towards trying to solve it. Like a huge bomb's gone off, you got the ringing in your ears, and you just need to deal with it, and then ultimately to find that Aurene has perished. And the sadness and the emotions, and I was really, really emotional at that moment. They played it so well. It was very similar to Thancred fighting on behalf of Reen in Shadowbringers, where I was like, I'm okay with this, with him dying now. Like, I had acceptance, and I was invested in a character that I didn't particularly enjoy. This is in terms of Thancred for a really long time, and now I do. And now it looks like it's the end, and I felt all those emotions come rushing back to me of this epic, so well done storytelling, and the feeling you have, that visceral feeling that you have as a player of a video game and not a movie, where you physically are moving and interacting with the world, and you're not just watching a cutscene. It was done spectacularly. And then they immediately reversed it with the next chapter, and just within 30 seconds brought Aurene back.
Cave. New flowers. I don't know.
That was a fantastic conclusion.
12 seconds later.
If this is bullshit and fucking Aurene comes back to life, I'm gonna fucking get to ArenaNet and kick the door in.
I don't know. But I feel something.
We feel it too.
Don't do it.
Yes. Yes. It's like
An echo.
If this is a debate, this is not happening. There is no way they made you guys wait 3 months and totally just went, but wait, there's no way.
My champion.
Scion speaks. Aurene.
What?
How?
Outrageous!
Being a lich has its
Joko!
advantages.
Joko!
Alchemy. Dragons eat me.
You totally devalued what you just did in the previous episode. No, man.
Praise Joko! Kept us waiting long
No,
enough.
dude.
Rand.
And what makes it worse is that the players who played this at the time as it was releasing had not only seen Aurene's death, which was who's a major character, had dealt with that and probably shed a tear over it for many people who are invested in the story, but then they had to wait a really long time for the next chapter to come out, only to find out that 30 seconds in, Aurene's just fine. That bait and switch is not funny, and it completely devalues everything you did previously. And it certainly does for any people like myself who joined the story later, who don't have to wait a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, or whatever to get the resolution to that story, but in fact experience it within like a minute or two. And I'm just like, why did you do that? You took one of the best pieces of gameplay and the best pieces of storytelling you've ever done and utterly shit all over it within 30 seconds. Now, I know a lot of people won't care about this stuff, or actually don't see it as a big deal. But what it does for anybody who's engaged with the story, and I am, is that you can never do that again. And now I just don't care if anybody dies. Like, you completely take that aspect out of your storytelling narrative. It's gone. And I'll tell you a direct result of this is there's an ongoing storyline with Timmy, who's suffering from a disease that is degenerating and it's fatal and she's getting worse. Now, some people don't like Timmy. I don't care. I like Timmy. And when she's not there, I'm like, what's going on with Timmy? Is she getting worse? Is she unable to get out of bed? How far is it degenerated? Is this something that's going to keep coming back up? And I was worried about Timmy dying. After this moment, I really couldn't give a fuck anymore because the likely is they'll just make her better, which is something that happens all the time in storytelling, but that risk of death is engaging. The actual showing a character die is engaging. Having that happen is engaging, and it won't be anymore because you did that. And it's like, oh, okay, so you're more than willing to just completely backtrack it. Like it's one of those 1920 serials with the guy hanging off the railway and we all see the car go off the cliff. And then next week, the car isn't off the cliff and it pulls him back on. And you're like, well, that's not how it ended. That's not what happened. We saw Aurene skewered to absolute death. She looked like a chicken McNugget on a kebab stick. We saw it and it's taken away. So ultimately, Living World Season 4, as you can probably tell, held some of the best moments I've had in Guild Wars 2. It did. Like, playing through these stories, the stuff with Joko, the battles with Kralkatorrik were all immense, interesting, engaging, so fun. And then, for some reason, it was counterbalanced with just bizarre choices, storytelling that took away from other stories in the game. And I'm really sort of like, I wish I could make a video where, like, Living World Season 4 was utterly incredible, and I just can't do it. I just can't do it. But I can tell you that as of recording this, one of the big goal that brought us to Guild Wars 2 Project MMO was to clear all the raids. We have done that. Look forward to that video. We have completed every single wing of the raids in Guild Wars 2. They are complete. Our journey is not ending there, though. We are on to the Icebrood Saga. We are on to End of Dragons, and we will be doing the strikes, and we will be there for the latest expansion coming August 22nd. Cannot wait. It should be a ton of fun. Really enjoy this game. Very, very fun. I hope they learn from what I perceive as mistakes in Living World Season 4 as we moved into Icebrood Saga and onto End of Dragons. Okay? So we'll be back with far more content for you then. Thank you so much for listening. Love you guys. See you again. Bye-bye.